As a child, I remember my dad installing a Sonic game on my home PC. And in this game, there is nothing but a green, hilly landscape. Sure, you could switch between playing as Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails, but there, well, wasn't much to do in the game. It really was, as I scarcely remember it, just running around and collecting coins. There's a certain horror I find in that game. Partially because I haven't been able to find the game since then, but also the liminality of it. Wandering around aimlessly in a green world with no music. To this day, I'm not sure whether I was just stuck on level 1 of a grander adventure, or if it was maybe a fan-made game. I really can't say. But what I can be certain of is that very specific sense of horror it provided to me. I say all this to say that I find Garn47, a secret game hidden inside of a mod for Friday Night Funkin', to give me that same sense of unease. I'm not sure if it's the liminal space that acts as the world of Garn47, where objects, objectives, and random assets are randomly scattered about, or if it's a surprisingly horrifying death screen, or perhaps it's the general dreary and creepy atmosphere. And yet the first thing that came to mind after watching GT Live's playthrough was that Sonic game. And I think that means something. 1971's The Point is a film largely about, well, the point. The film and prior musical album by Harry Nilsson takes this quite literally, as every villager has a point on their head. Every building having the same, and yet our main character doesn't. He has a round head. I bring this up because the film's main point is that, well, everything has a point. Art and people inherently have a point, without needing to be justified with things like objective or purpose. They and we have a point simply because it, or we, exist. Video games are by nature objective based. That is their purpose. But is it their point? I wouldn't say so. Even still, to subvert the expectation of there being a purpose to a game with no objectives, nor a story to easily tell and decipher, is inherently uncomfortable. It asks not just a question of what the point is, but also why we're dedicating time to it in the first place. We are all going to die someday. Thus, our time is limited. When we do something, we expect, if not a desired outcome, at least some outcome to happen. That's usually how it goes after all. However, my PC Sonic game subverts that completely, as does Garn47. It's a collectathon with no endpoint, no true objective, at least to what I've experienced thus far. I haven't played the game myself, nor obviously completed it, but I think I want to keep it that way. To have this time capsule of a game that reminds me of my childhood so much. That is in and of itself disturbing and unsettling, at least to me. It creates that liminal space I was talking about. A place outside the bounds of conventional understanding. A place that has no purpose. An endless corridor that exists simply to exist. That is what a liminal space is to me, personally. However, I think the true horror comes on a metatextual level. What is the purpose of our own existence? What is the point? Surely it can't be cosmic, as the universe is just too big for you to matter in it. If you're religious, then great, but I'm not. So what remains for me? A meaningless existence? There are no inherent objectives in life. Sure, there are subjective and personal ones like becoming rich or starting a family. But they will always lack that objectivity that a video game usually has. And maybe it's just me, but isn't that kind of horrifying? To have no purpose to our own existence besides self-created ones? This philosophy is nothing new. Nietzsche pondered these questions long before I ever have, and trust me, there is a time in my life where I really pondered these things. And while I think the only true answer I've ever heard was from, funnily enough, a video game in Nier Automata, I think Ash said it best in that GT Live video. The real prize of Garn47 is the journey. In the end, nothing has purpose. But at the same time, everything has a point. As I said earlier, the point doesn't rely on purpose, as art has value because it exists at all. We have value because we exist. That is both our philosophical starting point and our point. In this randomly generated collectathon that is life, where we will always struggle with purpose, just know this: there is always a point. And as always, thank you for watching.